Kakalosh, Boker Or, Bekiim Halacha 5, day 27, Siman Lamed Bet 32, Halacha Kuf Yud Chet 118. We're going to be speaking about now the uniform length of lines, which means when they're making the lines, it should be the uniform length. Yaseh kol hashurot shavot. All the shurot should be equal. Shalot tiyeh shura achad nichnas v'echad yitzeh. The one of them shouldn't be coming in and coming out. Ela kol hashurot yitchilu b'makbim b'oto makom. Everyone starts at the same line, in the same place, parallel. Yisaymu b'makbim b'oto makom. V'afilu ot achad lo tetzeh chutz l'shura. It shouldn't even be one letter going out, because ze kli vanveu. ולכן, and therefore, צריך הסופר לכלכל צעדיו במשפט כשבדקה בסוף האחרון שבסוף כל שורה ושורה. Therefore, you should pay attention when he's coming towards the end. באופן שיוכל לסיים השירות בשווה ממש, and it should be exact. Meaning like this, the beauty is that it's all uniform. They call it in English justify. When you go to Microsoft Word, instead of coming, and many people, they don't even know this, it comes and it looks bad, because you have Microsoft Word and then it goes like this. Right? No, it has to be justified. Right? Everything equal on the beginning and the end. But for sure you cannot write 3 letters outside of the shura. It's still going to be kosher. Even if it's going to be a full word outside. kasher. אך בתנאי שניכר היא שנקראת עם אותה שורה בפרשה זו, שאם אפשר לקרותה גם עם פרשה שבעמוד אחר, שבצידה, it's going to be פסול. Fine. Next, ק"ט. כל אותיות שם השם. all the אותיות של שם השם צריך שיהיה כולם בתוך הדף, אז בי inside, ולא יצא מהם כלל מחוץ לדף. ובדיעבד עם אות אחת בלבד מהאותיות שם השם יצאה חוץ לשורה, יש להקל. אבל אם היו שתי אותיות משם השם יותר מחוץ לשורה, יש להחמיר. So you see from here that the Shem Hashem has to be within. Meaning, even though we just said beforehand, lechatchila, don't do everything because of kelim aveu, but then technically, even if you do 3, right, it's not going to be posel. Okay? But he says, Shem Hashem is more important. Parashiyot ptuchot v'stumot. Kuf kaf, 120. יעשה כל פרשיות תפילין פתוחות. Everything has to be פתוח. חוץ מפרשה האחרונה כתובה בתורה, שהיה והיא משמוע, that it's going to be סתומה, and if you change it, it's going to be פסול. ולכן, and therefore, נהגו פרשה קדש לי והיה כביעך פרשת שמע, מתחילים בראש השורה. You start at the beginning of the line. right? ובסוף קדש לי ובסוף והיה כביעך מתחילים. They're also going to start, מניחים חלק כדי לכתוב תת אותיות. 9 letters. ובסוף שמע, הם מניחים חלק. They don't... He says, ואם מניחים הוא פחות מכדי לכתוב 9 אותיות, but if it's going to be less than 9 אותיות, ופרשה והיה עם שמוע מתחילים באמצע שיטה, they're going to start at the beginning of the middle of the שיטה עליונה. Yeah, so he comes and he says, ומניחה לפניה חלק, כדי לכתוב 9 אותיות. So he comes and he says, ונמצא ששלושה פרשיות הן פתוחות בין לרמב"ם, whether it's the רמב"ם or the ראש, right? פרשה ראשונה, פרשה אחרונה, היא סתומה אחת לדעת הרמב"ם. ופרשה והיה עם שמוע, בסופה אין צריך להניח שום רווח, ומסיים על הארץ, you're going to finish with על הארץ, בסוף שורה תחתונה. ובדיעבד, if you finish על הארץ בשיעור רווח 9 אותיות, it's going to be kosher. Okay, that's what he says here. It's still going to be kosher, right? Even if he leaves a blank space after al haaretz, but usually it's going to be until the end. Look in the footnote 101. To understand these halachot, it's necessary to know the definitions of parashat ptucha and stuma. There are 2 main schools of thoughts of the Rishonim, the Rambam and the Rosh. According to the Rambam, parashat ptucha, I'm in the footnote on page 70. Yeah, and the parashat ptucha is a passage that begins at the right end of the line without any indentation. Okay, so it starts at the end. And it starts. It is separated from the previous passage by a blank space of at least 9 letters long at the end of the line beforehand. If the scribe was not able to leave a blank space that long at the end of the previous passage, so he must leave an entire line blank and begin the parashat ptucha at the beginning of the following line without indenting. A parashat stuma is one that begins the same line in which the previous passage ended with a blank space of at least 9 letters. Alternatively, if the scribe begins a new passage after indenting and leaving a blank space, at least of 9 letters at the beginning of the line, it's considered parashat setuma. In this case, it will not matter whether he ended the previous passage at the end of the line or not, or in the middle of the line. In short, parashat ptucha always begins at the beginning of the line. Parashat setuma is somewhere in the middle of the line. According to the Rosh, parashat ptucha is one that begins after indenting and leaving blank space, at least 9 letters at the beginning of the line. Alternatively, the scribe left a blank space at the beginning, right, of the previous one. So the next passage is considered parashat ptucha even if it begins at the beginning of the line. Parashat setuma is one that begins the same line on which a previous passage with a blank space of at least 9 letters, right? So he says it turns out that the scribe indents the beginning of the passage, leaving a blank space at least 9 letters. The Rambam considers parashat setuma, whereas the Rosh is parashat ptucha. A Torah scroll right has hundreds of parashiot. Some are ptucha, some are setuma. Our scrolls are written in a way that does both opinions. So every passage that is supposed to be a parashat ptucha begins at the beginning of the line, while a blank space at least a little long is left at the end of the previous one. And every passage that's supposed to be setuma begins on the same line, right, with a blank space at least 9 letters. When writing Tefilin scrolls, however, this is not possible. So Sifrei Torah, we try to do both opinions. But you can't do that with a Tefillin. So he says, the Halakha demands that each passage be written in its own column. So therefore, it's not possible to end the passage of Shema and begin Vayayim Shema on the same line. So if the scribe chooses to satisfy the Rambam's opinion and leave a blank space at the beginning of the first line of Vayayim Shema, it will be a Parashat Ptucha according to the Rosh. So if you choose to satisfy the Rosh's opinion, so then it's going to be a Parashat. So what's going on? So since we can't do both opinions, Maran ruled that we go like the Rambam, ending the passage of Shema at the end of the line, and identifying the first line of the passage Vayayim Shamua with a blank space of at least 9 letters, right? And Sida Mishnah Brura and the Halacha Brura.